Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch One. Thanks for logging on. Today we are looking at the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore Themes Navy. 42 millimeters in brushed and polished stainless steel. You can see this navy in mil-spec full metal jacket. Purchase it if you like on our website, watchyouwant.com. And if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watch You Want Inc. Now, the navy, released in 2008, most commonly seen on a blue alligator leather hornback strap, changes in feel and aesthetic when equipped with what I like to call, in military form, a full metal jacket stainless steel bracelet. What you get is the versatility, obviously, of being able to take your watch into the water without any kind of swapping of straps, and at the same time an integrated look that really recalls the original full bracelet Gerald Genta Royal Oak of 1972. From an ergonomic standpoint, it also changes the experience. Now you can see on my wrist 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference. This one actually fits a little bit better than the equivalent watch on a hornback, and the reason is that this is a more flexible attachment ergonomically than the hornback. The hornback, especially when brand new, is very stiff. It's almost like a piece of wood, and while it wears well and lasts years longer than an equivalent calfskin, the bottom line is it's not always the friendliest option for a smaller wrist. And of course, if you ever want to take your watch in the water, you're going to have to swap out to a rubber or a bracelet. Get the bracelet up front, but because of cost, very few people ordered the option bracelet when they purchased their offshore Navy. With this watch, you get the ultimate package. You can see on my wrist, the 42 millimeter case wears far larger. That's always been the case with the offshore. Now 14.5 millimeters thick, so this one's not likely to clear any kind of a dress cuff, but this is a watch for good times and hard living, and I can assure you that 42 millimeters might be the nominal measurement, but first and foremost, it's 54 millimeters from lug to lug. Now, there is a little bit of flair in Royal Oak offshore tradition, so the virtual width that's added by the tendency of the links to move outboard of the outer extremity of the lugs essentially means that this watch wears like a virtual 61. So if you want to get a sense of the ergonomic equation, remember, it's going to be larger than a 61 lug to lug on your wrist if you wear it on the alligator leather. But with the bracelet, you have a fighting chance even if your wrist is as small as mine, 16 centimeters in circumference, maybe even as small as 15. Moreover, real value is added with this bracelet. I actually think it feels as soft against the skin as the calfskin underside of the hornback, and the reason for that is the superb level of finishing. Ergonomically, you can see the channels between the links are large. There's an immense cutaway between each interlocking link on the bottom, but the tolerances are very tight and regular on the top. You also get the element of finish that extends the metalwork done by hand on the case into the value of the bracelet. Now, ever since the first Royal Oak, these have been among the most difficult for watch refinishers to restore to factory specifications, which is why you want to get one that's already in great shape. Now, you can see the reason for that is because literally everything is brushed like the plots and the inner links, or polished like the chamfered edges of the outer links. And you can see that visually it extends into the lugs and then tapers toward the center of the case. That's the distinction between an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak and the merely oversized sports watch class of competitors. Hand craftsmanship, and you get more of it when you get the metal bracelet. You can only do so much to stitch and finish a strap. The metal bracelet is like finishing a separate watch by itself. Now, this example features a superb double deployant twin trigger clasp. You can see some of the original packing tape is still on it, but what twin trigger gives you is the security of knowing that it's not friction fit, so once closed, you can hear how tight the tolerances are. It keeps a very low profile. It doesn't really stick up like something like a Rolex Oyster clasp, and then once it's closed, twin trigger means that you need to depress both triggers at the same time to open it. No friction fit, no potential for accidents, and having the double swing arm deployant means that you can close it in smaller steps, which makes it easier to close and fit to a smaller wrist. Now you can see the case back of the traditional Royal Oak Offshore is solid. It's a nice traditional image. For an automatic watch, I've got to say that there's not so much appeal in seeing a movement half blocked by the winding rotor. From the debut of the first one in 1993, they were always solid casebacks with rare exceptions. That continues here, and you can see that the bezel bolts are recapitulated in the caseback bolts. No, they don't thread straight through the case, but it's part of the stylistic symmetry of the watch, the front and the back, and of course the seamless flow of both sides of lug into case and back. Now, The bezel is the defining feature of every Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. The bracelet has panache, but the bezel is effectively the face. Octagonal, just like the original Gerald Genta design, this one features the bolder, unitary, almost architecturally segmented separate elements that Emmanuel Gueit introduced in 1993. You can see that the bezel reads separately from the bezel gasket, reads separately from the block of the case, and that machine aesthetic of showing the structure, of turning functional elements like the gasket into aesthetic elements that actually play a role in the design, that was part of the great innovation of the Offshore. The original monster watch, it's appropriate that I'm showcasing this one on Halloween. By the way, at the office today, if anyone's wondering, I am the American tourist in Paris. My apologies in advance. But it's the center of the dial, it's the sub-registers, it's the subtle accents of navy blue that define this one as the navy. I should mention that if you'd like, you can purchase the original blue alligator hornback with this watch from us, but we are selling it on the bracelet because we feel it gives better value that way. The navy features that define this as a themes navy are those sub-registers, the contrast of the white with the very subtly almost black navy blue of the Arabic numerals themselves. It's a beautiful detailing, and you can see that there's actually a lacquer over the tapisserie base of the dial. The hobnail cut is still there, but you can see it's blunted, it's sort of smoothed out. It's almost a soothing image rather than the highly detailed, deeply grained image of the traditional mega tapisserie. There's almost a little bit of Rolex vintage Stella dial in there, the way the sharp cut of the metallic dial base is subdued by the effect of the lacquer over its surface. Now, the traditional tachometer is there if you do want to measure the speed of an object over a given distance, but this one's defined entirely by the contrast of colors that also makes it a superb sports watch. Now, you can see that it's easy to read in any light. It is fully loomed, but what it also has is outstanding contrast. So as a purely functional piece, it's a great success. Now, it does feature an Audemars Piguet caliber 3126/3840 modular chronograph movement. Now, what that means essentially is it is the in-house chronograph movement that succeeded the original JLC 889 Dubois de Praz modular movement of the original Offshores. This one has 365 parts, 59 joules. It operates at 3 hertz, so 21,600 vibrations per hour, and significantly compared to that JLC original, it's much, much tougher from a sports watch standpoint, and it has a much longer power reserve. So 50 to 55 hours, a little less if you run the chronograph, but the nice thing is the JLC in some of its variations only had 38 hours of power reserve, so we're talking a big upgrade here. Now, I mentioned toughness, and it's got that because it has a full balance bridge, so the balance wheel that essentially times the watch is anchored on both sides rather than a single-sided cantilevered balance cock. That does a great job of damping shocks and vibrations to the movement that could upset timing. It also has a Patek Philippe Gyromax style free sprung balance, so all the actual adjustments to fine timing are done by turning balance blocks on the balance itself rather than moving a mobile index that could be displaced by shock. So in other words, the shocks can't change the orientation of the timing device. Now, the finish is exactly what you would expect. Audemars Piguet fits these with solid casebacks, but finishing is a matter of integrity and heritage at Audemars Piguet, and rather than cut corners because of the solid caseback, they upped their game with the in-house movement. More beautifully finished in every respect than the original JLC, which wasn't bad. This one is blazoned with the coat of arms of the Audemars and Piguet families on the 22 karat gold winding rotor. It's self-suspended on wonderfully unlubricated, efficient, and sealed for life ceramic bearings. So when this one's winding, you hear that subtle, almost grainy winding noise of ceramic bearings. It's music to my ears because it's the sound of the future. That's how you know that you're never going to get essentially served with a $1,000 bill to replace a gold rotor and the winding bearings. That's the epitome of progress in traditional mechanical watchmaking. Materials science implemented underneath beautifully traditional hand-finished elements. Seamlessly and opaque. I love that. Audemars Piguet did a great job of taking everything that was wonderful about the original Offshore's chronograph movements, the finish, the sports watch orientation of the architecture. They made it more durable, they made it more beautiful, and with this full bracelet option, Audemars Piguet gave buyers the option to make the watch even more versatile, more imposing. You can see the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore Themes Navy with full metal jacket bracelet option, 42mm in stainless steel on our website, watchyouwant.com.